Hello, welcome to another video of Soulstone Survivor. Today I wanted to make a quick short video as kind of general guide. So before I was always making build guide for specific character and specific mode, for example Sentinel build for the Void Fields or Titan Hunt. And today, instead of making the specific build, I wanted to make general guide how I am making builds to kinda teach you how to make your own builds, the general rules, how to make builds in the Soulstone. So if you like my builds or and want to make something similar, or you want to try your own builds, maybe it will help you. So at the start you need to ask yourself whether you want to use skill mastery rune or not. It kinda is a difference between advanced mode and maybe simpler mode. What I am talking about are those runes, skill mastery. They pretty much allow you to borrow skills from other characters that you do not have available by default. Why I'm saying that using skill mastery is more advanced? Well, because if you decide to use skill mastery, you pretty much have every single skill in the game available to you. So you have instead like 40 skills to pick from, you have like 300, something like that. So you need to think about more skills, you need to compare more skills, and so on. So it's harder to pick the, let's say, perfect skills for your build, although you can definitely make stronger builds when using the skill mastery. So my recommendation is to first learn to make builds with the default skills for the character, and once you are pretty what is called once you learn how to make the builds with this, once you are happy with your builds, you can start slowly adding the skill mastery and looking for the skills of other characters. And there are little more things that you would like, that you would look at when using skill mastery. Like I actually then start to look what artifact power you have available, what ascension you have available. So you actually look at the power of the characters as well. But let's say you decided to not use skill mastery like I usually do. I very rarely use skill mastery. I just prefer to use the skills of the specific character because it makes each character kinda unique. And if I could use skill mastery, if I decided to use skill mastery, you pretty much can play same build on every character, so it becomes all the same. So yeah, you decided to not pick skill mastery. Next, you choose the character you want to play. So that's I don't know, assassin, for example. So now the next step is you choose what game mode you want to play, because depending on the game mode you want to play, your build will be different. So the game modes are the Void Fields, Overloaded, and the rest is pretty much the same. When it comes to builds, the Unholy Cathedral, which you don't really plan your build for the Unholy Cathedral, because it's pretty hard to actually get the skills you want to get, because you are limited by your rerolls, and you can't change your skill after you pick the skill at the start, unlike in other two modes. And Titan Hunt, your build definitely will be much different in the Titan Hunt than in the Void Fields because of the Titan powers and a few other differences. So let's say I will show you example for the other mode as well, but for now let's pick the void fields. So how to make build for how would I make build for the assassin for the void fields. Next step would be I choose my main DPS skill for the build. Usually in your build you pick one main skill and other skills are your support skills for the for your main DPS. There is exception for that, which I will talk in a second, but there are 4 main types of builds, I would say. First one is using stack skill, which for example is Eviscerate. You can see that costs damage based on the number of stacks of bleed on the target, so the more bleed stacks on the target you have, the more extra damage you will deal. More of those skills are like that is Shrapnel Bomb, Shadow Spikes. Those are general for the assassin. I think it's only Eviscerate. Yeah, so those 3. The second type of the builds is Spender build. Build using Spender skill as your main DPS, which is for example Rip. So you can see the what Rip makes does is it will remove all of the doom from the target to make all of those stacks deal damage instantly, and it will also boost damage of those stacks. Default is 250%, but you can boost it by adding damage to Rip. So in general you can make, for example, all your doom damage boosted by like 2000%. So that's the second type of the builds. I think there is not a single general skills for the Spender builds. All of them are
Victory or death!
Character specific, if I'm not mistaken. At least I can't remember any of the skill that would be Spender from the general skills. The third, actually, one more thing. Let's go back to the first type of the builds, which are the stack skills. There are 2, you could say, subtypes of the builds. There are stack skills that deal damage based on the negative effect, which could be even more separated into more. So for the negative effects, you have the skills that will base your damage on the stacks that we can easily get from on-hit effects like bleed, poison, burn, slow, doom, and burn, and disarray, because we have actual passives for those. But there are also ones that will deal damage, for example, based on dazed, exposed, shattered, weakness. No, I think there is not a single for weakness, but fragility, disoriented. I think there is actually not a single for disoriented either, but in general those are also negative effects. But we don't have passives for those, so for those types of skills you would actually need to get those stacks somewhere else. And other subtype of the stack skills are also stack skills that deal damage, extra damage based on the stacks of buffs, which are, for example, this one. It will deal damage, extra damage based on colossal stacks. So those are stacks that you do not apply on the enemies. Those are stacks that you generate on yourself, and they will also give you extra bonus because there was actually the buffs. So those are Colossal, Prowess, Form, Haste, Finesse, Bulwark, Resilience, Aptitude, and I think those are all. Those are actually, you could say, one subtype of those buffs, because there is other subtypes of those buffs that you also generate on yourself, but those actually do not give you extra stats. Those are like extra special effects. For example, Electrified. Those will also be generated on yourself. However, the difference is that
energy flows.
It doesn't show here.
Guide it.
Okay, let's find, for example, Icy Veins. It's the same. Yeah, so it's those are Electrified, Icy Veins, Radiance.
Energy flows. I guide it.
There's one more, the ammunition, kinda, and purify, whatever it's.
Blessed be the hunt.
Okay, yeah, purity. That's it, I guess. And the biggest difference is that those will actually be consumed, because, for example, for the prowess.
Let my blood and spirits join the ranks of legend.
Fixed duration of 6 seconds, so how many stacks you are able to generate this 6 seconds, you will have this amount of stacks, for example 1000 or 2000. The difference is, for example, purity or icy veins or whatever, those stacks will be
Let my blood and spirits join
once
the
you
ranks of
reach
legend.
certain amount of stacks to trigger some kind of effect, which means it's very hard to actually generate a lot of those stacks, because you would need to generate way more stacks than you actually are able to consume, because there is some kind of fixed lowest cooldown that you are able to spend those stacks.
Let my blood and spirits
like
join the ranks of legend.
10 times per second, something like that. So even if you are able to generate, for example,
Let my blood and spirits
150
join the
purity
ranks of
stacks per
legend.
second, you still would do not have more than like those 15 stacks, because you would spend
Let
or
my
consume
blood and spirits
as long
join
as
the
you
ranks
generate.
of legend.
So if I would rank those stack skills, the hardest one to make, to build around are the different those weird buffs like Purity, Electrified, Radiance. Especially if you are not using skill mastery, because there are a few
Let my blood and spirits join the
skills that
ranks
are
of
able
legend.
to bypass that, which is, for example,
The ritual begins.
yeah, those totems. This one will generate purity. This one will generate ammunition. This one will generate icy veins. I don't think there is one for electrified. For electrified, you kinda have this one, Blacksmith Surge, and the purity, and yeah, this is for
The
the
ritual
radiance.
begins.
But without the skill mastery, pretty much it's impossible to make builds
Victory or
around
death.
Balance requires action.
those types of skills, at least in the void
or
fields.
death.
In Titan Hand we have special Titan powers that could help with that. But anyway, the worst would be
Balance
those
requires action.
that will
Blessed
go with
be the hunt.
purity and so on. The second worst would be those that
Balance
go with
requires
the
action.
regular buffs like Colossal, Finance, Prowess. Next would be the ones that go with the
Burn them all.
For example,
Fear not.
exposed,
The arcane is
because
here.
it's kinda hard to get a lot of those. And the strongest one are those that we can just get from the passives, on hit passives and on crit passives. So that's for the stack skills. Going back for the spender skills. So as I shown before, it's for example Rip. This one, for example, hit explosion, contamination cut, and there's a few more.
Through the
For
great
example,
void, we must endure.
oh yeah, contagion, shadow grasp. So there are a lot of those skills, but I think all of them are character specific skills or weapon specific skills.
No.
Balance
The
requires
third
action.
type of skill, which in the past was pretty much so weak that you barely could consider it another type, however it got buffed, so nowadays they can be pretty good, are so-called multiplier skills. What I mean, those are skills that multiply their damage based on certain stat. Example of that is Rolling Boulder. It deals damage, but the damage is also multiplied based on your area modifier. Important note is that it only considers your stats, not the skill stats. So for example, Rolling Boulder will have area of effect
Energy flows.
passives.
I
However,
guide
those
it.
passives do not give you more multiplier. It only the actual area of the effect on the character. Yeah, this stat will give you extra multiplier, and because it scales, I think geometrically, or whatever it's called, meaning the more you have, the higher multiplier it is. Although what I exactly mean by that is, for example, at the start, adding 10% more area will give you another, let's say, 0.5 multiplier, so we go from 1 to 1.5. If you, for example, reach, I don't know, 1000 area, which isn't that hard because you can get 800 from Colossal, I think actually a little more, but if you reach soft cap 800, and you get like 200 from normal stats. If you have 1000, those 10% of area of effect would give you not 0.5, but for example it will give you now 3. So the more you have, the bigger bonus for each point of area of effect you would have. So naturally you want to get as much of that you can get from different sources. And the fourth type of builds, which are built little different, which is the example
Energy
of one
flows.
skill
I
as your
guide it.
main damage dealer, are damage over time builds. So, well, not damage over time, the negative effects, because Doom is not the damage over time. So the Doom, Burn, Poison, Bleed, and Burn, Bleed, Poison, Doom. I think there is one more. No, that's one. Yeah, that's 4. Yeah, Burn, Bleed, Poison, and Doom. Those 4. And in this kind of build, since your main damage is damage over time that you will mostly get from your passives, in this kind of build you pretty much use 6 support skills. You do not have your main damage skill, because the passives are your main damage. Okay, so after we pick the skill we want to use, or more like type of build we want to go, we want to pick how to support our build or our main skill. What I mean by that, of course, depending of the type of the build, you will support it a little differently. So let's go for all types which I listed before. Let's start with the usual, or like the strongest stack skills based on damage from amount of stacks. The skills you want to get for such skill, or actually, let me rephrase it. To support your skill, your build, there are also 3 types, I would say, of things that you could use to support your build. So one is skill chains. I don't have the passive to show you, but what I mean by skill chain, you once you get the two of the same type, for example, two swing skill and Eviscerate, which is trust skill, you can find passives that will tell you that you have, for example, 6 or 10%, depending on the level of the passive, to trigger trust skill whenever you cast swing skill. So for to use skill chains are pretty much the strongest type of support for the build, if did correctly. But how would you actually use those support skills? You wouldn't use, for example, swing to thrust because you want to cast the Eviscerate more often. You would use swing to thrust to cast Flurry more often, because Flurry has very long cooldown. However, it has 20 hits, which will apply also bleed by default, but you get also more from the on a hit, bleed on hit, bleed on crit, and so on. So instead of having 8 seconds cooldown, once you are able to reach 100% skill chain, which isn't even that hard, you have, for example, 1.4 cooldown. So you cast it more than 4 times more often, but you have 2 of those skills. So not only you cast it every 1.4 second, you also cast it every 1.7 second. You can also get even more. For example, yeah, here we have another skill, another 1.2 seconds. Of course, if you add enough of the cast frequency, you can lower the cooldown all the way to 0.15, which is lowest, but it will show 0.2 on the tooltip. So you can pretty much spam the skill, your so-called generators, more often. The second type of the support skills are those generators that I mentioned before, which are pretty much the skills that will attack all of the times, will hit all of the times, and usually have very low cooldown. You can try to use, as I said before, the skill chains to make them stronger, but you can also, if you are not able to use the skill chains, because sometimes you are not able to, you just can pick them without other thing. So, for example, to boost Eviscerate, I would pick Flurry, because it will hit 20 times. I would pick also Bloody Soul, because it will hit every 0.3 seconds, duration 5 seconds, so in total it hits 15 times if I count it correctly. Other good skills are also Death Vortex, this one, 16 hits, Poison Cloud, Poison Puddle. Orbs are decent, because it will shoot the orb and the orb shoots smaller projectiles, but in total it's like maybe between 5 to 10 hits, so it's not great, but it's also decent. Spear Trap, I think it hits twice per second, so it's 10 hits. But summons can also be decent generators, although not as good, because some of them, if you are able to get all of them, Some of them can be good, but since the game doesn't show us actual attack speed of the summons, you need very good knowledge of the game to actually know whether the minion will be good generator or not. Very good generator from minions is the
Balance requires action.
burst totem. It hits a lot of the times per second, so that's pretty much the only minion that I am using as generator. And the third type of the skills you can use as to support your build are the buffs slash auras, whatever you call them, which would be skills like Sugar Rush, Shield Wall, Lightning Surge, Might, Arcane Power,
The arcane is
Bull
here.
Blast. Those give you some amount of the stat, and depending of the build, they can be very good or they can be kinda meh. So for example, for the Vaserite, I wouldn't actually use any of the buffs, because the only buff on the assassin is the Sugar Rush, which is kinda useless, and it only gives us movement speed. Okay, so now we picked our main DPS skill, or the archetype for the build, which is stack skill for the bleed. So we picked the other 5 skills. So Eviscerate, Bloody Soul, Glory.
My blade speaks.
Actually, I forgot about one more type of the skills that are pretty much sometimes even more important than the generators. So I would put it maybe even over the skill chains, which are debuff skills. So skills that will apply some kind of debuff, because the debuffs in Soulstones are super OP. They are pretty much mandatory in your build. You want to get as many of them perfectly if you have all of them, because they stack on top of each other and give you a ridiculous amount of extra damage. What I mean by debuff are not those kind of like blitz, but I mean those kinds, which is disoriented, fragility, weakness if you are going for the damage over time, or doom. There are a few more, which is diced. Let's say yeah, diced. There is also shattered. Brittle kinda, but Brittle is kinda pretty weak nowadays after it got nerfed. Disarray is also one of them. And what are they doing? Depending of the mode, they are either more or less important, because the different modes, Void Fields and Titan Hand, have different soft cap and hard cap for those debuffs, which means they can give you less or more power. In Void Fields, there are pretty much the most important thing in your build, because the soft cap for the stacks for those debuffs is 800 and hard cap is 1000. 1000% or 1000 times the one stack amount. For the hard cap you need more than 1000, for the soft cap you need 800 stack and you get power of 800. For the hard cap you get effect of 1000 stack, but you need way more than 1000, you need a couple thousand. So usually you go for the soft cap if you get more, nice. If you can't get more, whatever. So yeah, what I give you, for example, Dice Wheel is pretty much the weakest of them all, but it's still very strong because it gives you 800% more crit chance, and crit chance in Soulstone is not capped at 100%. It will give you, for example, you have 500% for crit chance, 400 chance for crit. You will always crit for the 5 times your crit damage. So if you have, let's say, normal crit guild is 1000 damage, with 500% you deal 5000 damage. Next is this array, which give you between 0.5% or 2.5, so on average gives you 1.5% more damage times 800. The soft cap gives you 1200% more damage, so your damage times 14. Which already sounds ridiculous, but let's add another. Fragility gives you 1% extra damage for each stack, so another soft cap 800%, which gives you 9 times more damage, which is not additive, it's another multiplier, so the already times 13 we have, now we times it times 9, which is already your damage increased by over 100 times. Now let's add another, which is disoriented. This will give you 1% extra crit damage for each stack, which is another 800% more damage, with soft cap, which is another 9 times more damage. So if we multiply our already 100 something times more damage times another 9, it's already 900 or 1000 times more damage. So in general, if we get all of them, the shattered, disoriented, fragility, dazed, disoriented, I can't remember if there is, yeah, so crit chance is dazed, crit damage is disoriented, damage is fragility, and this array and shattered is kinda like extra damage because it removes armor from enemies, which means they have less damage reduction, which also helps. If you get all of them to the soft cap, it sums up to something like million times more damage. So as you can imagine, it makes immense difference between having them or not having them. So yeah, let's go to our example. For the Viscerite, before actually looking at our generators, I would actually look for the debuffs. Explosive Trap is pretty good, because for example for Disoriented we have Explosive Trap or Shadow Warp. Shadow Warp would hit... Okay, sorry about that, I had to answer the call. So yeah, for the Eviscerate, first of all I would pick my debuff skills. So for the Disoriented we could pick either Shadow Robe or Explosive Trap, however since we want Bleed for the Eviscerate, Explosive Trap would be a little better. Although Shadow Warp can also be good for the beginner players, let's say, because Shadow Warp you can aim it and you can use it from far away. For the Explosive Trap you need to kinda stay close to the enemies. However, the in general, Explosive Trap will be much better because not only it applies bleed, it doesn't clutter our passive pool with the useless doom. Another debuff I am able to get is Fragility, however, in this case, Heart-Rending Strike, even if I would able to get it to, let's say, 0.5 cooldown, that's still only let's say I get enough multicast to have 4 repeats on average. So that's 10 casts per second, which is 20 stacks of fragility times 6 seconds. That's only 120 stacks of fragility, which still is time 2.2 multiplier. However, it's not as great. So this one you actually need to compare, maybe other generator would be better. So this is kinda like on hold. And for the other skills, we don't really need, we don't care about weakness, because we do get the bleed, but we care about amount of the bleed, not the damage of the bleed. So weakness is useless for us. We also want to get exposed. Exposed is pretty much the biggest multiplier you can get for the stack skills. So this is Spirit Trap, which also is a decent generator because this hits like 10 times in total. So and also gives us Form, which is extra crit chance, another extra damage. So Spirit Trap is pretty good. Even for the exposed you can get Unguard. But same, Unguard has kinda low range. You need to be very close to the enemy, and it only hits once every 2 seconds, as opposed to Spirit Trap, which hits like, I think, 10 times every 7 seconds. So Spirit Trap is better, although you also need to be decent area of effect on it, because it will pick random enemies. So if it doesn't pick the boss, you want to have enough area to actually hit the boss as well. So on God can sometimes be better. And that, I think, is pretty much it for the debuffs we can get of the assassin. So we don't have money. Which means we can focus on either skill chain or the generators. Since our main damage dealer is Thrust type, we could actually use... we definitely will pick Flurry, because it's pretty much the best generator in the game, because not only it hits 20 times, it will also generate a lot of the Form, which is a lot of extra crit chance, which is a lot of extra damage. So our current skills are Eviscerate, Spirit Trap, Explosive Trap, and Flurry. Those are 4 skills, which means we have 2 or 3 skills left, because you can use the rune for one more extra skill. So we could actually go for the Heartrending Strike, which is source of fragility, finesse as well, which is extra multicast, and Bulwark, which is extra block, so little extra offense, little extra defense. And we could go also for the Double Slash, which is another source of Bulwark and the finesse. Why those two? Those are both swing skills, and both of them are very long cooldown, very short cooldown, so it's easy to lower them to like 0.5, maybe even lower, maybe all the way to the 0.2. And we could use skill chains to trigger. We focus on swing to thrust skills, so whenever we cast those two, we can either trigger Flurry or Eviscerate of both. If you reach 200% swing to thrust, you would trigger both of them, Eviscerate and Flurry. If you don't want to go for the skill chains, or you can also go for the Bloody Soul, which is another good generator. It will apply bleed, gives us finesse.
My blade speaks.
And for the last one, we don't carry. You could go for the Blade Storm. It's also decent generator. You could pick those, but those will clutter your acid rain, that vortex, poison paddle, poison cloud. It will clutter your passive pool with the either poison or doom, so you don't really want to do that. So for the last skill you could either take hard raining strike or the extra fragility, so it's still descend, or like you could also go for the shrapnel ball, for example, which kinda beats, because as I said, usually you get one skill for your main damage dealer. However, if you are able to get two skills that scale the same, you can pick, because shrapnel bomb scales from the amount of bleed stacks, same of the eviscerate, so it can also work. So yeah, so eviscerate, flurry, explosive trap, spear trap. Oh, okay, my bad, I forgot the spear trap is also thrust. So if you use swing to thrust skill chain, you will trigger either eviscerate, flurry, or spear trap. But since all of them are good for us, if we trigger them more, I would actually go for the skill chains. So eviscerate, flurry, spear trap, explosive trap, hard raining strike, and double slash. So yeah, now that we picked how, or decided how we support our build, next is optional, which weapon you pick. In this case, if you picked the eviscerate, we can't pick other weapon because eviscerate is weapon skill. But if you, for example, want to make build around shrapnel bomb and just shrapnel bomb, now you can pick whichever weapon you want. By then you can look at either extra skills that it applies. It gives us, for example, funnel bombs can be decent support skill. You can look on those extra stats that you get, but those are not really important if you push for let's say end game, which means like reaching Overlord 12, 15, 14, or Titan Hunt going to like 20 Titans. Those don't really matter, but artifact powers do matter a lot. In my case, I need to pick the first weapon, so which gives me extra source of beat, which is decent. But if I would go, for example, only for the shrapnel bomb, I would probably pick the second weapon, because we definitely are not able to reach soft cap with just the hardening strike of fragility. And the artifact would give this extra amount of the fragility, which is more damage. Shadow Dance could, not Shadow Dance, third weapon could be also decent. However, with the explosive trap you can reach probably around 400, 500 disoriented, as opposed to 100 hard rending strike will be probably around maybe 200 fragility. Maybe 250, something like that in the most extreme situation. Yeah, so now with that we pick the weapon. For my case it's the first weapon. We choose the runes. For the runes, for the versatility runes, pretty much the best runes you can get for the extra damage, of course not counting the skill mastery, is the Endless Refill, and in addition to that, Real Mastery. Endless Refill is stronger. And for the third rune, you can pick, for example, Weapon Expert to have start a little faster. You can also pick Unexpected Arsenal, which allows you to pick all of those skills, even if you have only first weapon. We will have other skills from other weapons available, but it's a little more advanced version. I usually don't do that, but you can do that
blade speaks.
and pick, for example, Twin Dodgers as your another swing skill. And you can go for the material runes if you want to farm more materials. You can go for the artist training to get more prestige levels. They don't do anything past level 250, just in case you want to ask. I have personal goal to reach level 1000 on each character, so I usually use that rune quite often. But for the runes you could also have few subtypes. Some runes are pretty much the build defining, and some runes are pretty much only supporting your build. By the build defining, what I mean is, for example, wait, actually I forgot to talk about no, I think I talked about damage over time. No, wait, I only talked about support skills for the one type of stack skills, but other part will be faster. So for the other type of the stack skill, which are the, for example, from the monkey has from the
Uncage the real.
where the heck is that? No, it's Paladin.
Blessed be the hunt.
Yeah, for example, staggering blow. Number of stack of prowess. Since we can't get prowess from on-hit effects or other passives, we need to focus on generators that actually not just hit often, but also gives us prowess. So, like before, you also want the debuff skills. So, for example,
Let
magic
my
missile for the
blood and
fragility,
spirits join the ranks of
light beam for the
legend.
exposed, license torch, no wait, power conductor for the diced, and so on. And for the prowess, the problem with those types of skills is usually without the skill mastery. It's also hard to make build around that, so I don't recommend using it without the skill mastery. Because, for example, for staggering blow, the only prowess generator we could get is armor shatter is descent. It also gives this shatter, so it's actually pretty good for the overall. Holy beam could give us some prowess, and that's pretty much it. There are of course the other slam skills that will give this prowess, but they are pretty bad. Radiant Light is very good prowess generator. However, if you are not using an unexpected arsenal or skill mastery, if you are picking this staggering blow, you cannot pick Radiant Light. So as you can see, it's kind of hard to make build around those skills. Next type is
the arcane is here.
Stack skill from the debuffs that we are not getting from the passive skills. So same, you need to find the generators that would actually apply those debuffs. So for exposed, actually there is light beam that is pretty good. There is Spirit Trap, which obviously we don't have access to on the Arcane Weaver. And I guess Sacred Orb you can also get, but in general you won't be able to apply several 100,000 or let's say tens of thousands of those stacks, unlike Bleed or Burn on Other. So it's also harder to build around those, but sometimes the build can still be decent. And the last one is the stack skills for those weird ones. Without the skill mastery, it's pretty much impossible to make build around that, so don't even bother. Because like I said before, you need to one of those totems to generate more than you spend. So going further for the so-called spender skills, like for example Contagion or the Rip, what kind of support skills you would need. Same, you want the debuffs The difference is that for the spender builds, you actually need or want all of them because both exposed and weakness work on them. So actually in this case Poison Cloud would be pretty good for more than one reason, because not only of course, for example, for Rip you want to apply as many Doom
My blade speaks.
or not many, as much Doom damage. So you don't focus on amount of Doom, you focus on its damage. So you actually take Doom damage passives as well. In Eviscerate we would only take bleed on hit, we would not pick bleed on bleed damage. Only bleed on hit and bleed on crit. So for the Rip you would also take Poison Cloud. Why I say for more than one reason, because the best source of those damaging negative effects, so don't burn, bleed, poison,
My blade speaks.
are so-called synergies. So for the Rip, for the Doom, we would obviously take Doom on hit, Doom on crit, Doom damage, but our main focus would be Poison to Doom. So Poison Cloud, which applies poison, would actually be very good. Because not only it gives us weakness, which increase damage of Doom, which further would be then improved by the Rip. It also applies poison by default, so instead only able to apply from poison to Doom from the poison on hit passives. Both white tier and green tier act separately for the synergies, so you want to take both of them at least one level, and then poison on crit. But you will also have poison like 100% to apply from the poison on Poison Cloud, so that's even more Doom from the poison to Doom synergy. And for the multiplier skills, like the
Blessed be.
Aim true, strike hard.
rolling boulder.
Balance
Yeah, rolling
requires
boulder.
action.
This one, for example, well, for this one you can't do much. You need the area of effect, so you would get generators, but not
Energy
of
flows.
on-hit effects, but
I
generators
got it.
of the buff that gives you the passive, not the passive, the stat you want. So for example, for area of effect you want to get generator that gives you colossal, so earthquake can be decent. Earthquake is probably the best generator because it gives you 2 stacks and has very low cooldown. But pretty much only earth skills can give you colossal, so it's kind also hard to get it. For other types, for
Ready the
example,
blade.
Arcane Overall, this is much better because it stack from the multicast, which we can get from buffs like Arcane Power. For example, Myrmidon
The
has
tide rises.
this one, wait, this one, crit chance, which we can get from Precision Wave. So usually if you are able to, you want to get the buff for the stat you need, and other than that you also, for example, for the crit chance you would look for the form, which trust skill give you form. In general you want to have as many of that stat as possible to get higher
Balance requires action.
damage multiplier. Okay, so that's for the support skill, and going for the runes. Build defining runes is synergetic, is pretty much mandatory rune for the damage over time and the spender builds, because as I said before, the best source of damage effect like Doom, Burn, Bleed, Poison are those synergies, and what this rune makes is not only it makes the chance to trigger synergy from 50% to 75%, giving us 50% more damage. It also makes them appear way more often, it's probably not sure how often how much more it is, but it feels like at least 100% more. So instead of having, for example, 5 levels of the synergy, you would find 10 levels or maybe even more. In some extreme situation, I think I reached level 25, 24, something like that in like 500 levels. Not 500, 400 levels. Other kinda build defining rune is the Divine Legacy. What it goes is every 25 levels you will be offered 3 legendary passives. Why it's build defining is pretty much mandatory rune for skill chains. That is pretty much the only option to reach more than to reach 100 or even more percent to trigger the skill chain. Without that, if you support your build with the skill chains, you need to pick the Divine Legacy. And the other type is minions, because every 25 levels you will get every time you can get plus 2 quantity to your my minion. So for example, if you go with some Nova Tyrants, you definitely want to have more of them, or for example if you use
Fear not, the arcane is here.
Cross Totem as your support skill, you could also consider taking Divine Legacy to have like 30 of those totems, because then it turns into ridiculous generator. And kinda, but not really, singular focus could also be build defining. Singular focus is mostly a meme skill, meme rune. It allows you to take same skill multiple times. However, in one case scenario, it can also be very good rune. As you can see from my slides video, I actually used the rune. If your character doesn't have access to good skill chain combo, so for example you don't have at least 2 low cooldown skills to use for the skill chains, you can consider taking singular focus and taking the 1 low cooldown skill you have available, because every character has at least 1, multiple times. In this case I took Frostbolt, which is very low cooldown. I took it 3 or 4 times to use it to skill chain into Flamethrower. So yeah, that's it. As also for the damage over time builds, like I said before, you don't have 1 damage skill. All the skills will be support skills, and you mostly want to just take debuff skills and the skills that will be your generator to actually apply those damage over time or doom stacks. So for the damage over time and spender builds are very similar, except the damage over time won't take exposed and will focus more on the applying actually damage over time, when the spender will mostly focus on the strengthening your spender skill, because it will be much bigger multiplier. And other than those 3 build defining runes, you have the general runes that will give you just more damage, like Savage Pact, Multicast Mastery. In some cases Multicast Mastery and the Adrenaline will double dip. What I mean by double dipping, in stacks skills, both Multicast and Cast Mastery give you double the bonus, because not only you cast your normal, the main skill, for example Eviscerate, more often, because you multicast more often, you also giving you more damage. You also cast your generators more often, giving you more stacks on the target, which means Eviscerate will have another damage multiplier, more damage bonus. So the effect of those double dips. But those are usually the runes that you take after you decide whether you want, whether you have some of those build-defining runes. Some of them can be also quality of life, for example, the touch to have access to the poison. If you, for example, want to have poison to doom, and you don't have access to the poison, and you don't want to fish for the chromatic skill, you can take Death Touch. Other is the Frozen Blood, which I use quite a lot. If you don't have access to the slow passives, you can take the Frozen Blood. Even if you don't have any source of form, it will still unlock you slow passives, because the game detects that you can get Icy Veins, and Icy Veins apply slow, so this unlocks you passives for the slow. And usually it's not that uncommon to have one slot and one runic power left, so that's actually good passives. But what do you want to have slow? The pretty much only reason you want to have slow is to get the slow to disarray synergy and then take disarray on hit, because as I said before, disarray is huge damage multiplier. It can give you more than 13 times more damage, which multiplies on top of everything. So for example, if you have already 100 times more damage from your other multiplier, if you apply disarray on top, now it's 1300 times more damage, so that's also make huge difference. And in general, it always be higher more damage than any of those runes can give you. So I would, if you don't have any source of slow, prioritize Frozen Blood over pretty much any other damaging runes. Okay, and so for example, for the Eviscerate, what runes I would pick? Oh wait, that was good for the Cathedral. Minor runes, of course, I would pick Endless Refill. If I wanted more damage, I would take Reroll Mastery. I usually don't really care about that. I would take Ardous Training for the lows, because I want level 1000, or both material runes, even though I have...
What brings you to my forge?
Pretty much a lot, but I still want more, might as well get more if I can. Maybe I will, maybe those materials will get useful in the future with some new content. So I would pick those. And for the damaging runes, since I go with the skill chain setup, I would go for the Divine Legacy. Then I go for the Multicast Mastery. I do not have access to the slow, so I got the Frozen Blood. And in Void Fields, it's fine to take Adrenaline, because it's not that hard to... because it's per point of HP, not the percent of HP. If you have, for example, 500 HP, you just drop to half HP and you have full effect of the rune. But in Titan Hunt, later on, if you get hit, you get pretty much one-shotted. It's very hard to drop your HP without getting killed, so in the Titan Hunt, I would pick Savage Pact instead. So those are the runes. Optional if you go for the Titan Hunt right now would be when you decide what Titan powers you actually pick. So you open the wiki. Wiki I think is not updated, but you can open the Mega Spreadsheet. I will link the Mega spreadsheet in the description below. You can go there, check each Titan, what Titan powers are available. So for example, in Titan Hunt you don't need skills with the debuffs, because you can get most of them you can get in the from the Titan powers. However, in Titan Hunt the hard cap for the debuffs are 200. So instead getting 800 or 1000% more, you only get 200% more damage. Still good to take them. So for example, you go for the lizard to get shattered on hit, you get for the scorpion to get exposed on hit, and so on. If you, for example, go with the skill that's stacked from the exposed, then you go check where you can get more exposed. You can get exposed from the scorpion or from the mushroom. Usually, personally, I make the list exactly what titans, in what order I will go in my run before I even start my run. I recommend you doing the same. And once you pick either those speed down passives, or if you are go for the void fields, you can skip that. It's also good to plan what actually to do with the passives in your actual build. So what do you want to banish, what do you want to prioritize, and what do you want to avoid? So for example, in Eviscerate build, what I want to banish, since I go with the Divine Legacy and it gives us 3 random legendary passives every 25 levels, I would want to reduce the legendary passives pool as much as possible to make sure that I actually get the one I want to have. The one I want to get, so the skill chain, preferably damage to physical skills and maybe something else. So I would banish things like multicast, because you can get banish normal multicast because you can get multicast to physical skill, for example, which will be much better bonus. You can get multicast from finesse, for example. I would also banish multicast to some specific skills because they also have legendary passives. So for example, I would banish multicast to hard run raise tie, multicast to double slash, because I don't really care about triggering those more than once that much, because skill chain can be triggered only by the actual cast. Multicast cannot trigger skill chain. However, skill chain can multicast, so it's good to leave multicast for the skills we skill chain into. For example, you want more multicast on the flurry skill, because when you skill chain into flurry, it will repeat that skill more often. So that's one example. Other example, if you go for the spender or damage over time build, if you focus on the synergies, take synergetic rune, you want to remove every single synergy that is not the synergy that you want. For example, for the rip, you want poison to the doom, poison to doom synergy. So you banish every other synergy, either you take once and banish it, or you don't take it at all and banish them. So when you find the synergy, it's always the synergy you actually want. And if you don't need to focus on either of those, because you go with just some simple regular build, usually you banish either the most useless passives or the passives that will remove the most amount of the passives. For example, in Titan Hunt, armor and block is pretty much useless because later on enemies penetrate 90% of your defenses. So each passive, for example, if it says you get 16 armor, in reality you only get 1.6 armor, because enemies will penetrate 90% of that. So those passive are pretty much useless. You could banish those in the Titan Hunt. And those are actually also good to banish, because each banish will remove 3 passives from your passive pool. It will remove the white tier of armor, green tier of armor, and blue tier of armor. So those are 3 passives gone with just 1 banish point. And since we have limited amount of banishes, you want to also think what would be best to banish those. Other than that, it's also good to, for example, banish useless damage of the negative effects, damaging negative effects. So for example, if we focus on the bleed and I would take Poison Cloud for bleed, not for the bleed, for the weakness, it applies poison. I do not want poison passives because it adds white and green tier of the poison passives. I can banish poison on hit. However, I usually prioritize banishing as many with 1 point of the banish. After that, you also want to think what do you want to prioritize. So for the Viscerate, we of course want to prioritize applying as much bleed as possible. So we want to take bleed on hit passives. We will ignore bleed damage passives because we don't care about bleed damage. We of course want multicast, we want cast frequency because it makes us hit more often, so which means applying more stacks. And the other pass, for example, since we have form, we will have extra crit chance. So we can prioritize, for example, crit damage over crit chance because we have other source of crit chance. The same way if you have some kind of the skill that, for example, give Dinas, which gives you multicast. So now, for example, damage can be more important than multicast because you are already getting some multicast from other source. And of course you want to also think that what you want to avoid. So those are passives that are useless and you don't have enough banishes to remove them, but also there are passives that can make your build weaker if you take them. For example, if we focus on the bleed, even if you would take Poison Cloud, sure, you have passives for the poison, and you could think that, okay, if I take just 1 point in the poison on hit, it won't be a big deal, because it will be little extra damage for 1 point. However, if you have more than 2 passives, 2 sources, so now you would have both Poison Cloud and poison on hit, for example, White Tier. Now you have 2 sources of the poison, which means now you unlocked Poison to Doom synergy, which is another useless passive cluttering your passive pool. If you would take 1 more poison passive, for example, poison on hit Green Tier, which is another separate source, now you have 3 sources of poison, and now you add poison damage, which is both white and green tier. You add poison on crit, which is blue tier, and you also add poison frequency, which is blue tier, and instant poison damage, which is purple tier. So now you added 5 useless passives to your passive pool, thinking that you'll make it's little extra damage, but in reality now you have less chance to get actual good passives like bleed on hit, making your build weaker. So that's pretty much it. I thought that will be a short video, but now that I look at it, it's on over 1 hour long, but I guess it's good that it's longer. I hope that I was able to explain how to make build. I hope that it will help you making your own builds, because the game definitely gets much more fun to play if you are making your own build, testing your own stuff, theory crafting, build testing, and so on, instead of just copying someone else's build and or playing same thing all the time because it worked and other thing you tested didn't work. I probably missed some stuff because this game is very complex, and of course this like It also didn't talk at all about the skill mastery, the more advanced things, because it will be like 3 hours long. And if you are a beginner, if you need to learn how to make builds, you don't really need that knowledge. You would get that knowledge by yourself eventually. So those basics will hopefully help you make your own builds, help you to enjoy the game more. If you have any questions, because I skipped something, because I didn't really make script for that other than making few points what to talk about, so I definitely skipped something, you can leave a comment, I will definitely answer your questions. So yeah, have a good day and good luck with making your own builds.